What's up everyone, and welcome to Shifting Gears. As suggested by this title, this is only part 1 of 4 for this Horde discussion. If you'd rather wait, I'll have the full 2-hour conversation posted later this week, so you can watch it all at once. It and the other 3 parts are going to be linked below as they become available. Also, don't forget that I'll have my personal opinions typed out in document linked below. And with that, let's get started. Alrighty, let's do this. So what's up everybody, and welcome to the first panel in this series. Today we're going to be discussing Horde mode, but before we get too much further into this, let's go ahead and introduce our guest. So Pete, we'll start with you.
What's up guys, my name is Pete, otherwise known as the Razored Edge. I've been kind of part of the Gears community since about early 2007, kind of got introduced to the game in or around then. Been active in the YouTube content creating scene and Twitch streaming scene for Gears of War, and still chugging on.
Alright, up next we have Robert.
Hi there everyone, what's up? This is the One Gunman here. I'm called Robert. I've been part of the Gears of War community since very late 2008. Competitive Horde mode player. I dabble in a bit of PvP here and there, but primarily it's Horde, and I'm one of the only people in the world to have beaten all 34 maps on Gears of War 4 on Inconceivable.
Nice. Alright, and last but not least, we have Cherry Quench.
Alright, so as you said, I'm Cherry Quench. I mainly do Twitch streaming for Gears of War. I got into Gears of War around, early 2007, around the same time as Razored Edge. Got an Xbox 360 because of Gears of War and fell in love with it. Did a few montages and stuff here and there during the Gears 1 scene. Came back during Gears 4 about a month after release, and I've been just streaming Horde usually about 2-3 times a week on that, usually playing on like Insane or so.
Cool. I guess I might as well talk about how I play. If you guys are doing it, I might as well do it.
Go for it.
So I've been playing Gears since Christmas 07. About a year or so ago, I started doing some YouTube stuff, primarily Horde-based. I like to play on Inconceivable and Insane. I've done a few things with no fortifications, but mostly I just try to figure out the best way to abuse the system and use sentries and turrets non-stop.
We love you for it.
Yep. And just like my job in real life, I love to be the engineer, and my teammates hate me for it. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right, now that that's out of the way, let's hop into some of today's topics. And I think probably the best way to start things out in a Horde discussion is let's talk about the class system. I've personally always supported the idea of having classes in Horde. I think it makes for a pretty interesting dynamic because like not everyone has the same exact abilities. I like where TC was heading with Horde, where everything is additive. They don't have a subtractive system, where some games you have a subtractive system, which means maybe the heavy class will run slower, or, I don't know, the scout would have less health. Something that takes away from the base.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
in Gears 4, everything adds to the classes. Some might add more than others, but everything is additive. So that's somewhat limiting, but it's really nice in my opinion. So with that basic overview of the class system, I'll open it up to you guys. So let's discuss classes for a bit.
Don't you feel that, like, so you say that they don't have any subtractive, like, traits. Don't you feel that, I like how in-depth Horde mode goes with the skill cards and that characters feel diverse in a certain sense, but don't you feel like in comparison to maybe other games, like the way the heavy doesn't go slow, that the experiences aren't necessarily like, it feels like you're just running around with different guns on each character rather than you feel different. Like a heavy should feel like heavy and powerful, like maybe he should spawn with a mulcher or something like that, you know, just little things like that.
Yeah, so I guess to me it's like you have the scout who definitely stands out because they have to get the energy. The engineer always feels like he's building stuff, but between the sniper, heavy, and soldier, they really just feel like they're people in there with different guns. Yeah, I get what you're saying with that.
Yeah,
Right. I kind of wish that the Coalition would just go a little bit wilder with it too. Like just exactly that. Like, yeah, let me carry a mulcher if I'm a heavy, or like if a soldier, maybe like the only thing that's notable about the soldier other than just the normal build that you get from like multiplayer is, oh, he has grenades. Cool. Like if they can, like,
Yeah.
if they could diversify it out a bit, or like, and then they show these awesome trailers of like, even if it was like a lot of melee damage or something to make the soldier more unique and make the classes really stand out. Yeah, I'd definitely be for that.
So what are your thoughts on like kind of a MOBA type thing where you think Gears Judgment, Overrun, they all had those like refreshing abilities that refreshed over time. It wasn't like some passive thing. It was, hey, this guy can throw out a sentry or this guy can throw out ammo boxes. Something that really made the classes stand out more. What are your thoughts on things like that?
For me, I honestly didn't really play Judgment. I think I played the campaign twice. I think I played the survival a couple of times, beat it on Insane, and then went, you know what, I'm bored of this, and then just put it to the side to use as a coffee coaster type thing. So,
you know what I think is a real shame though is that like Judgment gets a lot of flack, but Overrun is probably one of the most stellar game modes that the Gears franchise has ever seen, and it gets completely glossed over just because Judgment has this kind of bad taste in people's mouths. But like Wendell Hoyle like just absolutely blew, like he took Horde mode and multiplayer and blended that together, and I think that's something that Gears of War 4 kind of needed. It needed like that bridge gap because the Horde community and the Versus community always see themselves as separate things, but kind of giving us an opportunity to play as the monsters. This is turning into a thing about Overrun, but like giving us an opportunity to play as the monsters is something that would diversify the Gears experience a bit more. Like imagine being able to play as a Snatcher or a Carrier, or even the Kestrel helicopter. Like how weird would that be to like, just PvP with those characters? It'd be insane.
So it's almost like an upgrade. It's Beast 2.0.
Right.
It's Beast and Horde combined together.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It really is that. And I would have liked to have seen even a Beast 2.0, like, PvP on multiplayer maps. Like, so that means they didn't have to build unique maps for Overrun. They could just do PvP on the base maps, but the other team could play as the monsters instead, or maybe have like one player against 5. As one is the carrier and the other 5 is people. But anyway, we should get back to Horde mode. I have so many ideas about other stuff.
Yeah.
But
Talk about the future.
Real quick before we get back to Horde is just something you mentioned there, Beast 2.0, where we have Horde 3.0. Do you think it's about time that they drop that whole .0? Or like 3.0?
Yes.
They just call it Horde and Beast.
it's a gimmick that will stick. People will like ask where 4.0 is. Like it's kind of like seriously, right? Like they'll keep putting that on the end of it.
Yeah. God.
It's almost.
Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, obviously in the first Gears you had Seriously 2.0, Seriously 3.0, Seriously 4.0. So they'll probably, like Pete said, they'll probably stick with the same thing for Horde modes, because there was no point saying Versus 2.0. Because it's always going to be the same. Whereas Horde has kind of evolved. So obviously Gears 2, you basically had a boom shield, and you basically had to try and create your defense there. Gears 3, you obviously had the silverback and again boom shields as well, and that's something I miss in Gears 4. In terms of cover, I really wish you could just spawn a boom shield from the fabricator,
right?
Or have some form of deployable cover. You can basically level 1 boom shield, level 2 just like sandbags.
Right.
Yeah,
Even
relating
building,
that back to though.
A little bit.
Oh god.
I was just gonna say, even building like that's where I kept bringing that up too. Is just like even having a wall, just so you could make interesting setups, or like put the fabricator in like some odd end position, like in the middle of Fallout, for example, and just have a wall to help protect one side even would make a world of difference.
Yeah,
for sure. I think, but back to Horde 3.0 though, like I feel like they could have gone places with classes that they just kind of missed a few notes with. Like I think, remember. So you notice that like the Pouncer and the Jubies can get up on top of places that like no one else can. Like there's no reason to get up there. And I think it would have been nice if maybe the engineer or the even the sniper, like in Judgment,
Like an
could climb
overrun.
up could climb up on those places. Or if that's something that they don't want because they feel like it might cause technical problems, maybe like breaching in-game boundaries or something like that. Maybe the engineer could have placed like smaller turrets, auto turrets on top of the walls and stuff like that, and like maybe I don't know, like, and then this kind of goes like, why didn't they put in extra classes like a medic and stuff like that? Like, why didn't they go that far with it?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Go ahead, Chaps.
Oh no, I was gonna say, Cherry, you were bringing that up before we started recording this. Is you wanted more classes? So.
Like that's exactly what I was looking for. Like, and you kind of brought it up earlier with sort of the MOBA style, kind of in a way, or at least that like hit a hot button where I was like, I'm a big fan of MOBA games, or like Smite is really my go-to. And I love the class-based system. That guy that's your tank, you have your DPSs, you have your supports and things like that, people that are healing. Having that's a really cool idea, and what I really dig that they added the class system in here, because it's the start of that, is what it feels like. You have your sniper, soldier, and heavy, which are your DPS classes. Engineer's kind of I'm controlling the entire base. I'm mom, and this is my house. And then the scouts going and grabbing the money. But like if they diversified that a little bit, or that's what we were talking about earlier, where I would like to see like a tankier Scorcher class or something like that. Bring the Scorcher back if you're bringing back a few different weapons. Get another tank in there, so it's not just I'm the scout that is the highest health. I'm the fastest moving. I'm picking up all the power. Oh hey, and I have to save all of you guys while I'm at it.
Yeah.
Right. So this kind of path that we're talking about here, this kind of that's the kind of DLC and updates that would be exciting, right? Like a whole new character being brought, or type of character to play as. Kind of like if you look at Rainbow Six Siege, for example, like they're constantly introducing new types of characters, like Sledge and all those like different characters with different traits. So like if they're going, this month we have this brand new class that does this and it's super different and it will change the way you play Horde. It's not just the status quo of what you've been doing for the past year and a half. I think that kind of stuff. Like you said, like a heavy flamethrower class, like maybe weapon specific characters, like make it really like niche as to what they are. Like instead of having a heavy that can do X, Y, and Z, like maybe limit him but make him powerful, and kind of make that there's a bunch of classes that specialize in different things rather than just having a few.
Yeah, and one thing Gears started to do pretty well with some of their classes, which would make DLC ones even better, is the way the classes interact with each other. Like, this heavy is really good on a turret, but maybe the engineer has the turret cost card, so they work well together. And stuff like that, where it's like, it's adding a new class isn't just adding a new player to play as, it's adding a ton of new meta of like how these classes can interact and what different combinations you can have.
Right. Okay. And it is nice. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to change things a little bit.
I was going to say, and that's where it's cool that there is a meta for Gears. Like, all of a sudden now, the newest update involved getting the Berserker and Last Stand cards.
Yeah. Someone's mic just came out.
Yeah, sorry, that was mine. It was coming across really, really distorted, and I couldn't hear a damn word for the past 5 minutes, so I've been trying to sort that out. But it sounds crystal clear now, so...
Okay, cool.
All right, no worries.
But, yeah, where, like... I mean, first off, I didn't think the heavy needed a buff. I don't know about you guys, but like I thought the drop shot, I'm like, all right, I'm already getting like, if I land 3 drop shots on a snatcher already, it's game over. But okay, now it's even stronger.
Well, I found that I wasn't using the heavy at all, so maybe it needed an update. I feel like that, I don't know, just for whatever reason, it wasn't intentional. Like I wasn't like, screw the heavy. I just, for whatever reason, had no desire to play as him. So maybe they want to make him a bit more OP. So it's like, so you feel like you're kind of doing more damage in the game, as a kind of to make it satisfying.
Yeah.
I mean, me personally, when we play our Horde, literally, for example, we get a wave 10 carrier, you put a cold shot on it, 1 drop shot, it's dead.
Yep.
I don't think it needed a buff at all. I think the problem is people not understanding the classes properly, and I'm talking mainly public players, and I can see all 3 of you nodding and knowing the pain of seeing.
There's just no point. There's no point.
No,
Like,
and
it's
seeing
just-
that soldier running around, lancering everything and picking up the power as he kills the enemy is just like, no, stop it. So I don't think it needed. I don't think it needed it, especially to the 2 epic cards, which,
Honestly, those were 2 cards I never used anyways.
Likewise.
I mean, they're. You think, you do more damage as your health gets lower when holding a heavy weapon. I mean, on Inconceivable, pretty much, a couple of shots and you're down anyway. So
Right.
you're holding a great big heavy tri-shot or a salvo, your movement's kind of restricted anyway, so you're down anyway. So it's kind of a pointless pair of cards for me. You've got thick skin as well, so... you can pretty much take a direct hit off a boomer up until about probably the 30s, if it's maxed out.
Yeah.
So,
and that's where I was wondering with the new cards and the new buffs that are coming. I'm curious to try that out on Inconceivable, just for if you're playing say for instance Monster Mash and you've got these swarm snipers, or say even just normal Horde with dead eyes, and they can one shot down you normally. Is that going to make any difference at all?
I don't think it
I don't
will.
think it-
But
You're
I don't
down.
know.
Okay, cards are irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly.
I think those cards. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, they did have a discussion stream last night. The Coalition hosted a stream, and they mentioned that they heard the feedback on that for Inconceivable and Insane Difficulty, where the one-shot downs aren't going to really help at all. So they said they are going to look into that a little bit.
Cool.
But again, I think those 2 cards mainly point towards casual, normal, and hardcore. So basically, giving the newer players, confidence to maybe step up their game, or they just want to be invincible, run around the entire map with a salvo, blasting everything. And then dying on the other side, and then we have to pick them up.
Yeah.
I think stuff like that about new players being kind of irresponsible with their roles in game. I know it is a video game at the end of the day, but at the same time, you do want that cooperation. And I'll always sound off on this every opportunity I get. In future Gears of War titles, I want to see every game start off with the training grounds like Gears of War 2. I wanted to teach them the ground rules of versus multiplayer, explain why you can't kill someone in an execution game mode from 50 miles away, explain each class in Horde mode and all the things you should and shouldn't do and the benefits and just everything have Marcus Phoenix explaining absolutely everything to you and just make it so that they understand all the ground rules. I don't know how many times whenever there's a free weekend, or when they do those discounts and all that kind of thing for Gears of War 4, when all the new players come in, that they come into King of the Hill, and for whatever reason they'll do anything but actually stand inside of the hill. They will do absolutely everything but go near the objective. And in Guardian, they won't go near the leader. They think he's all powerful or something. They don't get it. What's crazy is that I remember they changed it from Gears of War 2 in Gears of War 3 Guardian that has this giant logo over his head that says "Kill the leader," and people still don't get it. And in King of the Hill it says "Capture" in giant text, and people still don't get it. So they need kind of when they load up the game, that there's kind of a training grounds to play in. And what actually was is when I was on the Gears of War 4 beta tour, and I actually asked Dana, was it okay to talk about this? There was a level that they had in the beta build of the game. It actually did leak online, I think. It was a green screen area where you could walk through and test how to do the new knife executions and all that kind of thing. And it was kind of it had dummy soldiers on, you could figure out what way you want to shoot the Nasher and get a feel for all the new guns and stuff like that.
That'd be really nice.
Just a mock-up of just it's a non-aggressive situation for a new player. Even when they go into co-op versus, the bots rush them and destroy them. They're oh, this is too intense. So if they had an immobile character model standing in front of them, they could just okay, oh, this is a shotgun, oh, this is a lancer, oh, this is a grenade, just stuff like that to get familiar with the game, instead of kind of being overwhelmed by how intense Gears can be.
Yeah.
We do see that with a lot of successful titles. I mean, I'm immediately drawing parallels to Overwatch's Training Room, Where it's like, all right, test out your character, and you got all these dummies sitting here. If you want to feed those
firing ranges in Call of Duty, like there's so many different things. Like just give the player a place to just stand there and take their time. You know?
And like in Horde, they can load in and test out their class and see what all the abilities are and stuff
like
like
even
that.
Like I can imagine like some kind of like Horde training ground where it releases a different enemy type. So like it goes, this is a tracker. You can kill them, shoot it with your Lancer, dead. Next thing comes out, this is a swarm drone. This takes X amount of bullets to kill. Down him, you can execute him or kill him. You know, and it keeps coming. And now this is a boss. Shoot his weak spots. You know, like get that in depth with it. Because all it will do is just generate better players that go into public scenarios already knowing what they're doing. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and then on higher, like adding more on that, on higher levels, like so we get a new patch, like Heavy gets odd buffs. Then we can go in, okay, let's test this out. Give me a Snatcher and a couple Swarms to work with. The Swarm will hit me, and then I'll just unload damage on the Snatcher and like maybe give number layouts so we can actually see. Instead of like, you know, chaps having to do all the math behind everything. Like just have the numbers splash out so we can at least do easy math with it.
I'm in complete agreement with everybody about, you know, training. It really, you know, you can't just jump into a new game and expect, you know, to just pick it up as you know, being thrown in the deep end, as it were. So yeah, I agree with all of you. PvP and Horde.
Some games prosper off of that. Like I people hate people mentioning it. Dark Souls, like it's a game that throws you like right into it, doesn't explain anything to you, and players are like, oh, like I love the fact that I figured this out on my own with like, and you know, it didn't come down to the game teaching them how to do it, but with the kind of game that Gears of War is. And when you compare it to other esports titles and other games of its type that have PvE modes and things like that, like there's so many games that have aspects like Rainbow Six has versus multiplayer and Terrorist Hunt. The Division has, you know, the Dark Zone and its new PvP, and it has, you know, the PvE modes, and it even has one of those training grounds where you can go in and just put on whatever gun you want and shoot and see damage kind of damage totals on what you're doing with your weapons. But I don't know. I hope to see that in Gears of War 5, definitely.
That would be nice.
Yeah,
fantastic.
So back to the idea of having, like we mentioned earlier, having a ton of classes and having them, or having more classes and having them differentiated from each other are more strongly, right? What are your thoughts on, like, so currently we have Engineer and Scout, which we've said they kind of have their own roles, but at the same time it also kind of makes it so that when you're playing you feel like you need those classes most of the time, depending on what type of run you're doing, and it makes it harder for someone to have fun going in and playing solo, or someone who wants to play with two people and you feel like, hey, well, I want to use a sniper, but we really do need a scout in there. So I think
that's where the scale and difficulty comes, right? Like it's if we're gonna play with two people, let's do a casual run, that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
I've got a couple of things to add, just to that point alone. We've already beaten a couple of maps. This is our new thing now, is we're beating maps without a scout or an engineer.
Yep.
You know,
I want to get to that eventually.
We found the best way to play that is perhaps you run with, you know, 2 snipers, 3 heavies, and one of the heavies puts on like fortification health on, you know, and you just start putting your barriers and your decoys out, and you play it that way. And you know, we've beaten a couple of maps. Clock Tower's probably one of the easiest maps to beat. Fallout, we've done that as well. But in terms of playing as co-op, my sister and I, we recently streamed a game where we're actually attempting a 2-person attempt on beating Horde on hardcore difficulty. So we had a wave 48 fail a couple of days ago, which was pretty disappointing, but we thought we were going to beat it. You know, and we were running with a sniper, as myself as the sniper, running full max damage cards, and my sister running, you know, sort of like a base heavy with a team revive maxed out. So we worked that out. The only problem we found was we were really, really, really struggling for money. In the 40s we had like one level 4 decoy and a level 3 fence. Holding us back on Fallout. It was, in those situations it was very, very tough, but very, very enjoyable. I'm convinced that we're going to beat this within the next 2-3 days. I think. Cool. I'm that confident, and then it's attempt the 2-man insane run.
Oh man.
Obviously we're playing it without sentries and turrets and stuff like that. We're just literally using the weapons, so
making life difficult for yourself.
Yeah, pretty much. This is too boring. Let's just do it pistols only. That's actually something we want to do. We want to do 2 heavies on normal, just bolt-hock only.
Nice.
Okay, no, that sounds fun though.
So speaking of boredom when it comes to Horde, are anyone who here is guilty of speedrunning to get credits for packs and stuff like that, right? Right. So you kind of fall into that habit of that's the way you play Horde, right? Like you play it to efficiently get through it, but your brain is kind of like, I'm not playing to goof around, I'm playing to do this or whatever. But and what has helped me with that has been the special events that have come out. But do you think that there's somewhere that they could have gone with the special events that could have diversified Horde and made it feel really different in comparison to maybe some other events that there have been, or something that they just haven't done that could be staring them in the face that's obvious?
No no fabricator option.
No fabricator, like Gears 2 style. Do you think they would need to adjust the strength of the Horde in because what I mean? Like
we did a hardcore difficulty no fabricator run just fine. We did insane using decoys and fences. I haven't tried Inconceivable yet with that, but I mean, so it's doable, but that's one of those events it's not meant to be overly fun like Jingle Juvies, Juvie Jingle, whatever it was called. But
you were right.
Yeah, it's meant to.
Sorry.
It's meant to be fun in the fact that it's different and it provides a challenge for people.
Yeah.
The trouble with that playlist was initially it was fun, but towards the end, what I noticed was people were playing on Insane were literally playing for themselves. They were, coming in with soldiers and chucking grenades. They weren't depositing in the fabricators, so the engineer was pointless. The scout was pointless, and it was just. I found it very, very depressing. I found it very, very depressing to see, what's the word I'm looking for?
Just a lack of
cooperative.
Right.
Cooperative, yeah. Horde basically has gone for Horde in that event went from being cooperative to, we can do this on our own.
So
and it's
what you're saying, to me brings to mind that maybe there should be a social Horde and a ranked Horde, right? That the ranked playlist, the only people who will go in there are people who want to, set record times and and actually cooperate, and then the people who want to hop into social and just be a soldier and pick up all the power and be a goof and just do whatever they want and run off and die, it's not a big issue. But in ranked, that's kind of that's where people like ourselves will go in and actually cooperate with whoever else chooses to search.
So kind of on that topic, let's discuss scoring. So a scoring system in Horde for a ranked mode, that type of thing.
Okay, I think this is just my personal view. Obviously, I think in terms of scores and stuff, I know how to play for score on 4, and it's just basically stuff getting putting sentries out there and then getting them destroyed. So they can pick up extra power. I think that if you're using sentries and turrets, I think you should have a score reduction. A score reduction sit on the fact that you're not doing the killing. You're getting something else to do the killing. So for example, you get 175 points for a DB. Okay, you then cut that in half down to what 80 points or something like that for using a sentry. Whereas if you kill it with the actual weapon like a lancer or a boom shot or a drop shot or torque bolt or whatever, you get the full 175.
My personal preference for a scoring system would be that purchasing fortifications subtracts points from you. So less fortifications makes it a harder match, gives you a higher score. Speed runs, which rely heavily on fortifications, they don't really get high scores. Boosting stuff like recycling sentries over and over again, you're not going to get high scores. There's probably some issue with that scoring system, but there needs to be something done.
When you mention a scoring system, to me, the only thing to obtain score in Horde mode primarily is killing, right? It's just killing the waves of enemies. So that can kind of get a bit dry. Like if that's what you're focusing on is getting the highest score. But like, what if Horde diversified in like what you can do within Horde?